Hello, veteran outdoorsman here again today, and we're going to talk about the Abu Garcia Ambassador C4 5600. It's a round style bait casting reel, um, aluminum bodied, has a nice smooth spool, uh, got a level wind like most reels do now. Some conventional style reels don't, but this one's this one definitely does. Has a I believe, a 6 pin centrifugal brake. That's one of those that the brake is on the inside. It's not an adjustable. You say, well, it's a round reel. They're never adjustable. Some of the higher end reels they are, um, even on the round style reels, which actually is pretty nice. But since it has that, it'll break your casting quite a bit and reduce your uh, your backlashes quite a bit. The adjustment here for your spool speed or whatever the tension adjustment here is just butter smooth. I mean it's just as smooth as can be. Now you know, if you've watched any of my videos, you know my opinion of Abu Garcia. They are my favorite reel, whether it be spinning or bait casting. Um, 90% of what I've got is Abu Garcia's. I've got this reel now, all of my main rods have Abu Garcia reels on them. Both of my catfish reels, one has an old 5600, one has a black max. My bass rods will have black max, a max winch, and then this, and we'll talk about the uses for it here shortly. We're just going to go over it here a little bit. It's a 5600 size. I believe it's rated for 200 something yards of 12 or 14 pound line. Anyway, when I figured it out, it holds between 100 120 yards of 20 pound monofilament, which is what I wanted for what I'm doing. With that, it makes for a good, wouldn't necessarily want it for strictly flatheads and blues, but it makes a good heavy catfish reel. I would certainly use it for pike. I would even use it for muskie. Many people would say that with mono, you need at least 30. Well, you could put 30, 40 pound braid on it and get a lot more capacity out of it if you wanted to use it for that. To me, 20 pound line is sufficient. You will have to play fish significantly longer. So for a tournament or something like that, maybe you don't want this reel. But this is a good heavy duty reel. Uh, it's a 6:3 to 1 ratio. You say, well, I prefer a faster reel. Well, something to think about. Because of the larger spool diameter, it pulls in. I think it's over 30 inches per turn, but I have to look that up. But it pulls in what I figured about the same amount per turn as a 7:3 to 1 because of the larger spool diameter. So that's something to think about. For every turn, you're pulling in the same amount. But the great thing is with these round style reels, they have slower speeds. This is actually pretty fast for one. My other 5600 is a 5:3 to 1. Um, that gives you a lot more torque for winching in heavy fish. These types of reels work really well for deep diving crankbaits. And my one catfish rod that you've seen in another video, it's a medium heavy graphite composite rod, with more of a parabolic bend. That particular rod, though I use it for my heavy catfishing duties, spooled with 20 pound mono, is also really good for the big fat A crankbaits going down 20 foot and crank. Works really, really well for that as well. And for slow rolling large spinnerbaits. And I'm going to use this for flipping, pitching, and frogging. And somebody's going to say for sure that, I'm going to go into this in another video once I got it on the rod and everything. But somebody's going to say for sure, well, no, 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 you want an 8 to 1, a 9 to 1. They've even got 10 to 1s now. Well, there's different schools of thought on that. And one is that you want to be able to pull in the line just as fast as you can and get those fish out of cover before they get behind trees and things, and you can't get them out. And that makes a lot of sense. My school of thought is you want to be able to winch them out of that heavy cover and out of the grass, and you want more torque to be able to do that, so you want a slower reel. I really prefer 5-3 to 1, 6-3 to 1 gear ratios. The fastest I have is a 6-4 to 1, and I can burn buzz baits on top easily. I can throw square bills, crankbaits, smaller crankbaits, things like that with those pretty easy. I throw my spinner baits with those. I can even slow roll my spinner bait. It is a little more of a workout doing that, but not bad with a 6-4 to 1. I have a 5-3 to 1 winch reel that I use for my crankbaits, but 6-4 to 1 is the fastest I've got. This is a 6-3 to 1, and this is the one that's going to take up more line than any other reel that I have because of the large spool diameter. But it's got 100-pound line. Oh, I dropped some and I didn't get them all. But, sorry, a little bit of an interruption. But it's a, this is a really nice reel. All aluminum body. It's fairly heavy, and somebody's going to say, well, it's just so big. I like the low profile reels. And nothing wrong with the low profile reels. Not a lot of low profiles have large spool capacity. There's some that do, but a lot of guys have gone with braid, so you don't have to worry about that. You know my stand on braid. I don't really like braid for a couple of reasons. One is it's just expensive, and I'm a cheapskate. The other is that it's hard on your guides. It's hard on your guide here. If you're fishing tournaments and things like that, and you want every edge you can, I can see where you'd want to go with braid. I just don't. I use mono. I don't even use fluorocarbon. Maybe for a leader on occasion, but typically I just use mono. And I do a lot of bass fishing, but you know, a lot of that's personal preference, and people are going to say you have to have this, you have to have that. That's not 100% true. There's advantages both ways. So I've got between 100 and 120 yards of 20-pound line on this. This is a saltwater rated reel. And the great thing about that is, though I'm going to be using it most of the time for fresh water, go on vacation, go down to Florida, go down to Louisiana, Mississippi, something like that, or down the Gulf of Mexico, I decide to do some fishing, I've got one reel that's good for saltwater. And many guys would prefer a larger spinning reel for that. They'd load it with maybe 12-pound line. That's not a bad way to go. Put it on a medium or a medium heavy spinning rod. That'd be a good way to go. This I'm going to have on my medium heavy frogging rod. And remember, it's 2-piece. I've also got a 7-foot 2-piece medium action rod. I could throw both of those rods in this reel in a duffel bag, in a small tube in a duffel bag, and take a spool of 20-pound line, take a spool of 10 or 12-pound line, and depending on what's biting, now I'm talking about re-spooling it, I can fish for a lot of different species with this reel. This would be good for say, redfish, things like that out on the Gulf. Maybe a little heavy for trout, but it would work in a pinch. but it's a good saltwater rated reel. Again, I'm going to use it for flipping, pitching. It doesn't have a flipping switch, and it also doesn't have the ability where, like my Black Maxes, some of my other reels, you push that button down and you can just flick it with your thumb and it locks the spool. This one doesn't do that, but it's something I've learned. And again, I'll show this when I do my flipping and pitching video shortly. Something that I've learned. Now I still cast with this hand, then switch hands and reel, and that's where the flipping switch really comes in handy. But something I've learned: flip it out, pitch it out, and you're holding it close like this. Just smack it with your finger. That locks the spool, and then you do a little bit of jigging, and you can set the hook with your hand. Then you can switch and you can reel. So works really good for that. The gears are smooth as silk. It's got a really nice smooth drag. I mean, just butter smooth. This is a made in Sweden reel. Not all of the Abu Garcia Ambassador series are. They have a couple of lines that are more of their economy lines. They're still good reels, still good quality reels. I've always felt that these Ambassador series are the Cadillac of reels, and this is one of the Cadillacs of the Ambassador series. This is the C4, I believe it's C4. Yeah, C4. It's the 5600. It's the medium size. Make one smaller, one bigger. It's got a nice, everything's steel, aluminum, brass. It's a good looking reel. It's not that heavy. A lot of people would think that they're just going to be really large and bulky. I don't mind the size. Now, I'm not a small guy. I don't mind the size. If you're a smaller stature, maybe you won't like the weight of the reel. For me, it's not an issue. It's got a nice handle, good firm grip, a larger handle again to help torque fish in. And for my techniques, where with these higher speed reels, you don't have a lot of torque, and you have to reel down, pull up, reel down, pull up, reel down, pull up. Well, with bigger fish, you do that anyway. Don't get me wrong. But you're bass fishing all day long, and you're doing all that up and down, up and down. You're catching a lot of fish. To me, I found that it just wears my arms out. I like to hold the rod at a higher angle, let the rod do the work, let the rod be the shock absorber, and be able to just winch fish in. And the lower gear ratios allow me to do that. Maybe people say, well, you're doing it wrong. You're not. It's a difference in technique. It works for me. It doesn't wear me out as much. If I'm just all day long pulling, reeling down, pulling, reeling down, pulling, reeling down, I'm going to be more fatigued than if I can just hold that rod in place, lock it on my gut, and reel that fish in. On larger fish, you're not going to have that option. But your bass fishing, catching 2-3 pounders, you can just winch them right on in, even in the weeds and grass and things like that with these lower gear reels. Something to think about. Everybody's got their opinions on that. Everybody's got their different experiences. Whatever works for you, do it. That's what I do. This would be a good reel, like I said, for some saltwater applications, maybe up to redfish, maybe even you can probably catch snook and things like this. For larger fish, you might want to go with heavier line, but since it's saltwater rated, it'd be a good vacation reel. Something, hey, I go down to Florida once or twice a year. Be a good reel for that. It's not super cheap. $130, I think it was. But it's certainly not a high dollar reel either. It's one of the less expensive saltwater rated reels. Very smooth. For me, it's great for bass, for flipping, pitching. That's what I'm going to use it for. I would use it for shiner fishing, using shiners under a big cork and flipping them out into the weeds for bass fishing. I would use it for that. For larger swim baits, things like that. So make a good reel. Probably not a beginner reel because it doesn't have the adjustable brake. It doesn't, but it does have the infinite anti-reverse. It does have the thumb bar. Not all of the Ambassador series have the thumb bar. You know, for a catfish reel, something like that, maybe I don't want the thumb bar. For bass fishing, I want that thumb bar. Let me see. Some of them have clickers. I'm not sure if this does. I certainly don't see a switch for it. Some of them do have bait clickers. I don't think this one does. I thought some of them did. Maybe it was the larger series that did. But again, I'm not going to be using it for catfishing, so it's not that big a deal. I didn't buy it for that. It would work for sure for catfish. For larger swim bait, on that heavy, on that bigger medium heavy action rod that I'm going to be using for flipping, pitching, frogging, this is also going to work. I can throw heavy spinner baits, 3/4 ounce, even up to an ounce if I wanted to, with that rod. It would work really well for that. 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce, large heavy jigs, punching heavy cover, things like that. This is going to work really well for that. Pike fishing, even muskie fishing. Again, some people would prefer to go with heavier line. You could go to braid, still get pretty good capacity out of that. That'd work fine. I don't have a problem using my 20-pound. Different people have different opinions. That's fine. But it would work for the big inline spinners, things like that, for those things, for trolling, for hybrids. Though somebody use lighter gear for that. It's going to be a lot of different applications you can use this reel for. Not horribly heavy. Now, I do have large hands, but not a horribly big reel. I don't know the exact weights, but it's just got a good feel to it. Not overly heavy. Aluminum housing. It's dressed up with a brass liner here, and the brass, at least brass colored reel handle. Nice flat with some dents there for texture. Nice rubberized type, so you can get a good grip even when your hands are wet. I've had a lot of experience with these round Ambassador reels. You take care of them, they will last a very long time. They are more expensive than some of the lower profile reels of the lower end. You get into the entry level, the cheapest one of these you're going to find, and it won't be the Made in Sweden reel, $75, something like that, where you can buy a Black Max for what, $40-45. Pro Max for a little more than that. Not the cheapest reel in the world, but just, especially when you get into the Made in Swedens, are just a little smoother, a little slicker, and you pay for it. You get into those into the $100-$150 range, just smooth as silk, bomb proof. I mean, just tough reels. I think you're really going to like them. They'll take some abuse, where you drop a low profile with a graphite frame, something like that. You drop it onto the rocks. You do that too many times, you're going to crack something. These, you may put a dent in them. That's going to be about it. You may scratch the finish, put a dent in them. You may chip the thumb button. Those are the only real people, the handle knobs, the thumb button, this little piece up here that holds your guide, about the only pieces of plastic on these reels. They're great. There may be some. My other 5600 does have a plastic gear inside. I'm not sure about this. I don't plan on taking it apart anytime soon. When I lube it up and whatnot, I might. But, well, I'll have to. But just smooth drag. Smooth reel. Great anti-reverse. I mean, just not. It's almost every reel says infinite anti-reverse now, but some of them have just a minute amount of play. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Great. I'm going to rig this up. I'm going to rig it up with to flip something. I'm going to do a video here shortly and show you how I use it, how I rig this up, how I use it. But this is a great reel for the money, actually, and for a lot of heavier applications. And a great reel for somebody vacationing, want to do a little bit of saltwater work. If you like the more traditional style reels, if you want a heavier reel for different things, for more workhorse type applications, I would certainly recommend the Ambassadeur C4. There's other series that are a little bit cheaper if you don't want the saltwater application, things like that. The 5600 series for me is my go-to. I've got two of them now. Maybe you want to go with the smaller size, 4600, I think, 4500. Maybe you want to go up to 6600 for larger stuff. But give them a look. Ambassadors have been around since the 50s. A lot of those reels are still in use. And they come out with new models every year. They're great reels. Try it out. I think you're really going to like this reel, and I know I am. So this is Veteran Outdoorsman. God bless you guys. Thank you for watching our video. And if you like, please subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll catch you later.